Jay Baruchel is unapologetically Canadian. He's been in some blockbuster films. He's a Hollywood household name.
Oh man, I should have gone first.
But he's prided himself on making movies in Canada, about Canada, for Canadians.
We wanted to give Canadian kids the movie that we feel like they've been waiting for since Slapshot.
Goon is a sports comedy film about a hockey enforcer that brought a certain kind of Canadian culture to the world.
Oh boy. This has all the elements of a sports masterpiece.
It topped the box office the year it came out. He's followed it up with Goon 2. We sat down in Toronto. This is the point in the interview where I pull up a couple of your quotes from the past.
Oh, God.
You know,
I talk a lot.
Which means, you know, you'll never be able to run for Prime Minister
Yes.
when I read these.
I've made peace with that already.
You said this a couple of years ago. I'm just sick of watching Canadian movies with Canadian actors and Canadian backdrops, and then they exchange money and it's American cash.
Yeah.
So movies shot here.
Yeah, I was, yeah.
But not about here.
It was sort of, yeah. There is this kind of, and it's changing, but for a long time, a lot of the Canadian film industry, and in English, everything I said has nothing to do with with Canadian French cinema, but Canadian English cinema, for a long time, endeavored to, best case scenario, sneak themselves into an aisle on Blockbuster, and hopefully no one would notice it was a Canadian film. That was basically like the entire thought process was, well, we're kind of like them, so let's just make a movie sort of and sneak it in there, and they won't even notice, as opposed to just like owning what's awesome or just setting a movie here. Like, you know, because like when we made Goon, and it takes place, 90% of that movie takes place in Nova Scotia, and it came out in the States, and a lot of people have fallen in love with it. Do you think that the minute that they saw a Nova Scotia license plate, they hit pause, they're like, okay, I don't know what any of this is supposed to be. I can't watch this movie. No, because there's no such thing as prohibitively Canadian. It's insane. And so now, that was a tad hyperbolic what I said there. It was, you know, interview 14 on a junket day at TIFF. But my point was this: was that like one of my favorite movies of all time is The Wrong Guy with Dave Foley, and I think it's a masterpiece. It's as funny a movie as I've ever seen. Now it is a Canadian flick, and everyone involved with it's Canadian. And then there's Ohio license plates. For what reason? Because the Ontario license plate might preclude a distributor from buying it in the States? Well, that's insane. And by the way, then it ends up looking kind of pandering and 6 on 10. And who respects that? You know, like and I hate using that movie as an example because it is a movie that's dear to me, but like busy work. We're doing all this stuff that's not actually important. The stuff that, you know, what we need to be doing is telling awesome stories and getting people to go see movies, period, right? And the other side of that is, so we tried to make movies that we tried to sneak into Blockbuster, and then the other movies we made were just for film students. And those movies should still exist. I'm so proud to live in a country where the government funds a movie like Kissed, okay? That's a beautiful thing. But God's honest truth is, Colin and Terry in Calgary aren't going to see Kissed on Saturday night, but they might go see Goon. And so, like, there's different types of Canadians, and so we should make movies for different types of Canadians. That's it.
Okay. Because I think some people could have taken that to look like, you know, you were saying something, you know, against what is a burgeoning movie industry in Canada, because it can supply the backdrops.
100%.
Great talent
and it
behind
always
the cameras.
And it always has.
Less cost.
It always has. And we have been a service industry for American cinema and TV for a long time, and that's an awesome thing. And that keeps an industry going, and that provides great jobs for people up here. But we need to do more than that. And like, if we were in any other country in the world, it wouldn't even be a discussion. If someone wanted to make a movie in England that took place in England, no one would ask them why, you know?
See it first, big thanks. See it first, say Gary. You're not allowed to go talk to the rep.
Done that shot.
Here's another one, very different. No, I love this one. I think this says a lot about you and about the way you speak out about your feelings about the country and what you think's right and wrong. One of the great shames of my life is that I didn't go to the Royal Military College in Kingston. Most of the men on my mother's side fought for the only country I call mine, but I didn't pull my weight yet. So I see working in Canada as a degree of civic service.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's a real point of pride in my family that for multiple generations we've served this country. You know, my granddad left Halifax in '39, came back in '44 alive, and as soon as he was home, re-enlisted to fight the Japanese, and then they surrendered. He was then in Cyprus as well, and then a lot of my uncles. My uncle Ron Purvis was a 30-year veteran of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Was guarded Queen Elizabeth II, in fact, on one of her trips to Canada, and. So I grew up in a family where the brass ring was never outside of the country. I was raised to believe that this was the best country God and the world had come up with so far, and to be proud of what we've done. And yeah,
is that part of the reason why you still live here?
I think so.
Not in Montreal, but you're getting closer to the ACC and the Leafs every day. But because of that sort of, because you could be living in LA. Without any trouble at all. I'm sure there's a lot of pressure from your friends and some of those in the industry to move there, but you don't.
It's just this. This is my country. There's so few of us. We haven't been here very long. If I was lucky enough to be able to have a career and create something in LA, first of all, I would be very grateful for that. But best case scenario, at the end of the day, I'd be adding to another country's cultural tapestry. It means less. Down there, I'm just some guy, and at the end of the day, I might get to create something, but I haven't left anything behind up here, and it's a point of pride for me that, like when the first Goon came out, you know, I was like, I could die tomorrow because I left this behind, and that's a special thing.